Are you planning on starting the Fate series with fatezero? You're wrong. Are you planning on starting with the Fate Stay Night anime? You're wrong. Are you planning on starting with any other Fate anime out there? You're wrong. Somehow the Fate watch order is still a relevant subject that continues to confuse people, so today I'll let you guys in on the simplest and the only objectively correct watch order for the Fate series. And even if you've already seen the anime, this will still be relevant, so keep watching. And trust me, the watch order is simple. There is one step. That's it. Just a single step. It goes Fate Stay Night followed by anything else that has the word Fate in it in any order. It doesn't matter. Fate Stay Night, everything else. But then, why did I say that you were wrong if you started with the Fate Stay Night anime? Why am I contradicting myself? Well, I'm not. When I said Fate Stay Night, I was not referring to the anime. I was instead talking about the visual novel. And hold on, wait, don't click off, hear me out, calm down, it's alright. Put the video back on full screen, it's fine. I know it's scary, but I'll hold your hand all the way through. Take a deep breath, it's fine. Over the next however many minutes, I'll try to convince you guys to play the visual novel. But before I do, I need to explain how. You see, for the longest time, acquiring the visual novel was a Herculean, or at the very least, a morally dubious task. Let's just say it involved a shady Google Drive link. Thankfully, that's not the case anymore. They are releasing a remastered version of the novel on Steam on the 7th of August this year. You can now play it in English officially, and for the longest time, that was a pipe dream. The Nasu racist arc is finally over. So, with that out of the way, let me try and convince you guys to give it a chance. And first things first, Fate Stay Night is the correct starting point, not fatezero. There's no room for debate there. In fact, don't take my word for it. According to Aniplex producer Albert Cao, Fate Stay Night is the best place to start. fatezero is a prequel written by a different author. You can skip it altogether and still be fine, although I wouldn't recommend that because it is really good. In fact, I added that line to the script simply to piss off those die-hard fatezero fans. You know who you are, and you know I am correct. It's like that Attack on Titan No Regrets OVA. Yes, it takes place before the main story, but you don't start with it, do you? You watch the main show first. Just like No Regrets, fatezero follows a well-written side character. Yes, that's what Kiritsugu is. He got nothing on my goat Shiro. Also, the Fate Stay Night visual novel came out back in 2004, and the fatezero light novel came out in 2006. So even if you decide to follow the release order, Fate Stay Night comes first. Also, fatezero spoils Fate Stay Night, and it's not worth it in my opinion. fatezero is good, but Fate Stay Night is superior in every way imaginable. And the fact that some of you might think otherwise is proof of how poorly the anime handled its source material. And fear not, I'll get to that. Basically, Fate Stay Night first place. I know a lot of people tend to start with fatezero, but that needs to change. And that's that. Let's get to the sales pitch. Why should you play the visual novel when the anime looks so incredible? The answer? Because neither is the anime complete, nor is it a good adaptation. Let me explain. As some of you might know, the Fate Stay Night visual novel has 3 routes: the Fate route, Unlimited Bladeworks, and Heavensfeel, and only 2 of those routes have been adapted. There is that 2006 version, but we don't talk about that. It's barely an adaptation, and the inferior visuals have nothing to do with that. It's simply a jumbled mess. In fact, initially it was pitched as an original story. The lack of a proper adaptation for the Fate route is a massive problem, as the routes complement each other. The Fate route provides context and lore that is relevant to Unlimited Bladeworks, and the latter does the same for Heavensfeel. Basically, each route explores a different dimension of Shiro's character. Even if UBW was a perfect adaptation, which it is not, it would still be impossible to fully appreciate it without a Fate route adaptation. Also, the Fate route is often referred to as Saber's route because she is the primary female lead in it, and by not experiencing it, you are missing out on the characterization of someone who, in my opinion, is the single greatest female character in all of anime, and I don't say stuff like that lightly. You are also missing out on the best character dynamic from the show in Shiro and Saber, and the best ending from the series. Long story short, the Fate route is incredible, and there is no way of experiencing it without playing the visual novel. As for the ufotable projects, they have their own issues. Unlimited Bladeworks is for the most part fine. They nailed a bunch of important moments and the pacing is decent. One of the biggest problems with it is its overall tone, which is a bit too battle shonen-like in my opinion, if that makes sense. The whole idea is to present Shiro's overly shonen-like ideal through Archer's cynical, jaded, and realistic worldview, but the overall tone in the anime was a bit too Shiro-centric in my opinion. It could have used a more Heavensfeel-like presentation, and that brings us to Heavensfeel, aka a proper bad adaptation despite the incredible visuals and direction. The main problem is the pacing. Heavensfeel as a route is longer than Unlimited Bladeworks, but the anime adaptation has a total runtime of less than 6 hours, and to put it in perspective, Unlimited Bladeworks has a runtime of longer than 8 hours. You don't need to be a genius to figure out what the problem is. Some people think we visual novel readers want our adaptations to be one-to-one, but that's not the case. We just want our stories to be represented well. Heavensfeel cuts out major chunks of the story, including important bits of characterization and lore. It's clearly in a rush, and as a result, it skims out on a lot of stuff, making it a bad adaptation in the literal sense. Basically, out of the 3 routes, the first one hasn't been adapted, the second one is mostly fine, and the third one is depressingly rushed. So with that, we have established 2 things. 1. Fate Stay Night is the correct starting point, and 2. The visual novel is undoubtedly the best way of experiencing it. But you might not be fully convinced yet, and I'm starting to realize that I don't have all that many compelling arguments left. If there is literally no other way of experiencing the series in a proper manner doesn't do the trick, I don't know what will. I wonder why people are so scared of the medium of visual novels. And I get it, 100 hours seems like a large commitment, and that would be true if the number was correct, which it is very much not. The real length is closer to 65 hours, 50 if you're a fast reader like myself. And yes, that is still a lot, but there are 3 routes in the story. You don't need to play the whole thing in a single sitting. You can take your time. And you know what? It's not even that long. Here's a list of popular shows that take longer to finish. Bleach, Black Clover, Fairy Tail, Naruto, both the original work and Shippuden, and My Hero Academia if you include the movies and the OVA episodes. And in my humble opinion, Fate Stay Night is significantly better than all of those titles. And I know I'll get murdered in the comments for saying that, but I stand by my statement. Visual novels might be a new medium for a lot of you, but once you get into them, you'll see that they are fairly accessible. They are basically novels with a soundtrack, occasional voice acting, and artwork. So, if you do decide to set aside your unfamiliarity with the medium and decide to make that sizable commitment, what would you get in return? How good is Fate Stay Night? Well, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. When you think of the word fate, you might think of flashy looking fights, but in actuality, the fights aren't even the top 20 best things about the Fate series. It's home to some of the best written characters in Shiro and Saber, some of the most well-written character dynamics in Shiro and literally everybody he has a dynamic with, and it's home to some of the most compelling, heart-wrenching, and thought-provoking story beats you'll ever come across, assuming you and I think similarly. Each route explores a different yet ultimately interlinked set of themes, and it knocks it out of the park every single time. I have watched, read, and played hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of titles, and I would comfortably place Fate Stay Night in my top 10, closer to top 5 actually. It stays with you. Allow me to sound cheesy for a second. I remember playing the visual novel over a summer break a few years back, and even to this day, doing something as simple as listening to a soundtrack from the series evokes a sense of emotions that are hard to describe. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. If any of you have played the visual novel, you know what I mean. Those notes from ever-present feeling, they do something to you, don't they? As for the rest, give it a shot. No one's stopping you from watching the anime afterwards. Also, side note, if any of you do decide to play the visual novel, I recommend using a guide for the choices. I'll link one down in the description. You can go down the trial and error route, but I personally would recommend a guide-based approach. So So that's that. I spent an entire video trying to sell you something. That's a first, but hey, is that not what content creation is all about? Fanboying over something you love. That's about it. Liked the video? Check out this other bit of content on screen. Like and subscribe, and until next time.